I always feel bad turning people away, but this guy, he made me feel scared to open my door at all. It was a Tuesday afternoon, I work from home, and around 3 p.m. I heard a knock. Not the kind where someone's just being polite. This was firm, slow, persistent. I opened the door just a crack, keeping the chain on. A man in his early 30s stood there, clean-cut, polo shirt, clipboard in one hand. He smiled like we were old friends. "Afternoon. I'm just talking to a few neighbors today about energy savings in the area." I cut him off. "Hey, sorry, not interested." He nodded. "Totally. 100%, but this'll just take 1 minute." Then he launched straight back into his pitch. Fast talking, numbers, buzzwords. I stood there frozen, unsure what to say. Eventually, I repeated, "Really? I'm good, thanks." He nodded again. "Sure thing, totally, 100% understand." But he didn't leave. He just stayed there, like I'd asked him to continue. That's when I noticed his clipboard was blank. No company name on his shirt either. I said, "Do you have a business card?" He replied, "Not on me, but if you just let me step inside for a second, I can show you." "No," I said, and started to close the door. He put his hand on it. Not forcefully. Just enough pressure to stop it from closing. His smile never dropped. I stared at his hand, then said loud enough for my phone mic to pick up, "I'm calling the cops." That made him pause. He said, "No problem. 100%, have a great day," and finally stepped back. I watched through the peephole. He didn't go next door, didn't head to the sidewalk. He walked to the edge of my driveway and stood there for 5 full minutes. Then he turned around and walked back toward my door, but before he could knock again, I opened the blinds and took a photo. That made him bolt. I filed a police report. They said it was probably just an aggressive salesman. Maybe fake, maybe not, but they never found him. I've seen a couple of stories online since then about scams like this, but I still wonder what would have happened if I hadn't kept the chain on, because he never even had anything to sell. I don't open the door for salesmen anymore, not after this. It was a Wednesday around 3:30 p.m. I had just wrapped up a Zoom meeting and was microwaving leftovers. The doorbell rang. Not a knock, a press, the kind that lingers too long. I live in a suburban cul-de-sac. Quiet, cameras on every porch. I figured it was Amazon or someone dropping flyers. But when I checked the Ring app, my stomach tightened. It was a man, mid-30s, button-down shirt, clean jeans. Not a single thing in his hands. No clipboard, no pamphlets, no iPad. He was just standing there. No delivery van in the street either. I watched for a second. He didn't move, didn't glance around, just stared at the door. Then, I kid you not, he waved at the camera. I muted the microwave and walked to the door but didn't open it. Through the peephole, I could see he hadn't moved. Same neutral expression, like he was waiting for a signal. Then he spoke, low but clear. "Hi, sorry to bother. I just have a quick question." I didn't answer. He tilted his head slightly. "It'll only take a second." Something about his voice made my skin crawl, like he was used to people not answering, but didn't care. When I didn't respond, he stepped closer, too close, practically nose to the door. That's when I stepped back and hit record on my phone. He said, "I saw your car in the driveway. I know you're home." That was enough. I yelled through the door, "Not interested." He didn't leave. Instead, he walked off screen on my Ring app. I waited, heart racing. Then I heard the back gate click. I sprinted to the sliding door. It was locked. I yanked the curtain aside, and there he was, standing in my backyard. No expression, just staring through the glass. I backed up, grabbed my phone, and called 911. My voice was shaky. While I was on with the operator, he walked away, calmly, through the side gate like nothing happened. Cops came 10 minutes later, took my statement, checked the footage. They said he matched no one on file from any sales companies in the area. No one was canvassing that day, and the weirdest part? He didn't touch a single doorknob, didn't leave fingerprints, not even on the glass. The officer said, people like this test homes, looking for routines, weak points. I changed my locks, got motion lights. Haven't seen him since. But I still check the backyard every night, because someone out there knows I didn't open the door. And they're still waiting for the right time. I never told that guy my dog's name. That's what still gets to me. I live alone with my lab, Cooper. We moved into this place last summer. Nice little ranch home in a quiet neighborhood. The kind of spot where everyone waves, but no one really talks. It was a Thursday afternoon. Cooper was napping by the window like always, and I was fixing the kitchen sink. Then the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. I checked the peephole. It was a guy in a blue polo and jeans, standing like he was posing for a brochure. He looked early 40s. Smiling. Clean-shaven, short hair. I figured he was selling something. I cracked the door, kept the screen locked. He said, "Hey there, I'm offering free quotes on pet insurance in the area. Thought you might be interested, seeing Cooper and all." I paused. "How do you know my dog's name?" He smiled a little wider. "He's a good boy. Labs are smart." I didn't respond. Cooper wasn't even barking, just laying down by the couch. His name wasn't on the mailbox. It wasn't on a tag. Nothing visible. The guy just kept standing there like he hadn't said anything weird. I said, "We're not interested," and shut the door. He didn't leave. He stood there for another minute. I watched through the blinds. He pulled out his phone, typed something, and finally walked off down the street. I called my neighbor across the street and asked if she got a visit. She hadn't seen anyone all day. Nobody else on the block had a dog either. Later that night, I rewatched the doorbell footage. Here's the part that made my stomach drop. Before ringing the bell, the guy leaned down and peeked through the front window, right where Cooper sleeps. But even then, how did he know his name? The next day, I put up blackout curtains and bought a sign that said, "No soliciting." No one came to the door. Until Sunday. Same guy, same clothes, same smile. This time, he said, "Just wanted to follow up about Cooper's policy." I didn't open the door. I just said, loud and firm, "Leave or I'm calling the police." His smile faded. He didn't say anything else. Just stared at the door for a second, then walked away. I did call the cops. They said to file a report, but there wasn't much they could do. That was 2 weeks ago. He hasn't been back. But last night, Cooper started growling at the living room window around 2 a.m. I checked, but didn't see anyone. Then I noticed something written on the outside of the glass in the morning dew. It just said, "Good boy. This happened 2 months ago, and I still check the porch before I open the door, every time. I work from home, so I'm used to random Amazon deliveries. Sometimes for me, sometimes for my roommate. We both ordered too much, honestly. So when the doorbell rang around 11:15 a.m., I didn't even think, just got up from my desk and opened the door. There was a guy standing there in a gray hoodie and khakis. Looked early 30s, plain face, average build. He had one AirPod in and was holding his phone in his left hand. He said, "Hey, package for Jacob." That's my roommate's name. Only thing was, he wasn't holding a package, just the phone. I glanced down, empty hands. What package?" I asked. He smiled like I was the one being weird. "I dropped it off a second ago. Just wanted to make sure someone grabbed it. Porch pirates, you know?" But the porch was empty. No box, no bag, nothing. I looked down again, thinking maybe I missed it somehow. Still, nothing. "You sure you dropped it here?" I asked. He glanced past me into the house. Yeah, blue door, right? That set off an alarm in my head. My door used to be blue. We painted it white 6 months ago. Before I could ask anything else, he said, "Well, maybe it already got grabbed. Have a good one," and turned around fast. I closed the door, locked it, and immediately checked our security cam. That's when my stomach dropped. The guy didn't approach the house with a package. He didn't put anything down. He walked up, rang the bell, stood there, talked to me, and left. No delivery truck, no bag, no nothing. I sent the clip to Jacob, who said he hadn't ordered anything that day, and he definitely didn't know the guy. We called the non-emergency police line and submitted a report. They told us it might have been someone casing the place, looking for homes with open doors or people home alone. That night, I went back and re-watched the footage again. Slower this time. Right after I closed the door on him, the guy stood at the curb for about 20 seconds. Then he pulled out his phone again, looked at it, nodded to himself, and walked away, like he was confirming something. We installed a new lock the next day, got a new motion light. Still haven't seen him again. But sometimes I think about what would have happened if I had left the door wide open or stepped outside. There was no package. He just wanted me to believe there was. I should have double-checked the license plate. That was my mistake. It was around 9:45 p.m. on a Friday. I was leaving a friend's apartment after watching a movie. She lives about 20 minutes away from me, and I'd had a few drinks, so I figured I'd just rideshare home instead of driving. I opened the app, requested a car, and waited on the curb. The app said the driver's name was Kyle, and he was in a dark gray Toyota Corolla. About 4 minutes later, a dark gray car rolled up. Same model. Tinted windows, nothing weird. The back window rolled down. "You waiting on a ride?" the driver asked. He looked young, maybe late 20s, hoodie, hat, facial hair. Didn't seem sketchy at first. I said, "Yeah, you, Kyle?" He nodded, "Yep." So I opened the door and got in. Almost instantly, I noticed the inside smelled weird. Like cologne trying to cover up something stronger, but I brushed it off. We drove in silence for about 2 minutes before I realized something felt off. The app wasn't tracking the ride. No movement on the map, no en route update. I leaned forward. "Hey, did the app freeze or something?" He didn't answer, just kept driving. That's when I glanced at the dash. No phone mount, no GPS up, no signs he was following a route at all. "Hey," I said again, "can you confirm my name?" He didn't look at me. "What?" "You're supposed to confirm the rider's name." "What's mine?" He chuckled, but it wasn't casual. It was like he was annoyed I asked. I repeated, louder this time, "Say my name." Still no answer. That's when my heart started pounding. I reached for my phone, opened the app again, and looked at the license plate listed under Kyle. It didn't match, not even close. I looked up, trying not to panic. "Let me out, I'm not joking." He glanced at me through the mirror. Still didn't speak. I raised my voice. "Pull over. Let me out. Now." He kept driving until we hit a red light. Without thinking, I popped the lock, shoved the door open, and bolted. I didn't even grab my bag. I just ran into a well-lit corner store nearby and begged the cashier to let me stay until someone picked me up. I called the police, filed a report, gave them a full description. But they never found the car, never found the guy. The app said Kyle had canceled the ride after I didn't show up, meaning the real driver never even got close. I don't know who the man was or how he knew to pull up at the exact moment I was waiting. All I know is he wasn't a driver. He was looking for someone too trusting. I should have trusted my gut the second I opened the door. It was around 6:30 p.m., early fall, still light outside. I'd just gotten home from work, made some pasta, and sat down on the couch when someone knocked. Not the buzzer, an actual knock. I live in a small apartment building, maybe 12 units total. Usually, if someone visits, they buzz first. So I walked to the door and asked, "Yeah?" A guy answered, "Package delivery for 3C. "I live in 3A, I said. "You mean 3A? He paused, then replied, Yeah, 3A, sorry. I get them mixed up sometimes. I should have left it at that, but the way he said it, too fast, too forced, something felt off. I looked through the peephole. He had a brown hoodie pulled tight, hat low, and a small Amazon-style package under one arm. But he wasn't wearing a uniform. No logo, no badge, no scanner, and his shoes were completely clean, like brand new. My stomach tightened. I asked, "Who's it from?" He hesitated again. Didn't say, "I'm just the courier. You want it or not." That was my second warning, so I said, "Just leave it at the door." He didn't move. "Can't. Gotta get a signature," he said, still standing stiff, still not holding out the package. I didn't say anything for a few seconds. Then I leaned closer to the peephole and said, "There's a camera in the hallway. I'll check with the building manager. That did it." He turned and walked fast down the hall, past the stairs, out the side door. I stayed frozen, listening. Once I was sure he was gone, I called the property manager, asked if anyone had reported packages stolen. He paused and said, "Funny you ask. Someone in 2B had a guy try that exact thing last week. Claimed he had a delivery, then tried to shove the door open." I didn't sleep much that night. Later, I rewatched the hallway camera footage. The guy had been standing outside my door for a full minute before knocking, just staring at it. There was no delivery. The package was empty. He wasn't trying to drop something off. He was waiting for someone to open the door. I installed the camera for peace of mind. What it showed me still keeps me up. I live alone in a one-bedroom apartment near the edge of town. Not a bad neighborhood, but it backs up to some woods and a narrow service road. I'd had a couple of packages go missing, so I bought a cheap doorbell cam online and hooked it up. Mostly, I just check it for deliveries, or watch raccoons dig through the trash. Nothing major. Until 2 weeks ago. It was around 2:15 a.m. I couldn't sleep, so I was scrolling on my phone. Out of nowhere, I got a motion alert from the camera. I figured it was another animal. I tapped the notification. There was a man standing on my porch, not moving, just standing. He was wearing a black hoodie, jeans, and gloves, and he wasn't facing the door. He was facing the camera. I stared at my phone, no audio, just that image, him staring directly at the lens, motionless for a full minute. Then the clip ended. No knock. No attempt to open the door. Nothing. Just him standing there, watching. I sat up in bed, heart pounding, and opened the live view. He was gone. I jumped up, locked the deadbolt, even though it was already locked, and checked every window, all sealed. Next morning, I checked the footage again. The clip was 59 seconds long. Right before it cut out, the guy smiled, like a small, knowing smirk, as if he knew I was watching. Then the screen froze. I sent it to the police and filed a report. They said it might have been someone casing the building. They'd send someone to patrol the area. But 3 nights later, it happened again. Same time, same guy. This time, he was closer to the door. I didn't get an alert. I just woke up around 3 a.m. and checked out of paranoia. The footage was already sitting in the app. He'd come up to the door and placed his hand over the lens for 10 seconds, then walked away. He didn't take anything, didn't break in, but now I wonder how many nights he came without me ever knowing. I thought I was being careful, but she didn't come through the door. This happened 3 months ago. I had just moved into a new apartment after a breakup. Not the nicest place, but it was mine. Quiet complex, decent neighborhood, second floor. I liked being upstairs, felt safer. First 2 weeks were fine. I'd come home from work, make dinner, watch TV. I'm the type who double-checks locks, keeps curtains drawn, especially now that I live alone. It started with little things. My phone charger went missing. I figured I left it at work. A few days later, I found it behind the couch. I hadn't used the couch that day. Then my shampoo bottle was moved in the shower. Small stuff. Easy to brush off. Until I started hearing the creaks. They came from the ceiling, just soft shifting noises, like weight moving above me. Only problem was, there's no unit above mine, just the attic, shared storage for the building. I called the landlord. He said it was probably raccoons, maybe squirrels, but I wasn't buying it. The sounds were too heavy, measured, human. So, one Saturday I set a trap. I placed a line of baby powder across the hatch door in my closet, the only way into the attic from my unit. That night I barely slept. Every creak made my heart jump. In the morning, the line of powder was broken, smudged, like someone had stepped over it. I didn't even bother calling the landlord this time. I called the cops. They searched the attic, found a pile of blankets, water bottles, a protein bar wrapper. Someone had been living up there. The craziest part? They didn't find anyone. But when I looked closer at the footage from my entry cam, the one facing my front door, I noticed something terrifying. There were days I'd leave for work, and the feed showed no one entering or exiting all day. But when I came home and locked up, sometimes I'd hear movement again, meaning she never left. She was already inside. At first he just seemed awkward, but halfway through the ride, I realized he knew things I never told him. I drive for a rideshare app on weekends to make some extra money. Usually nothing too weird. Drunk college kids, airport runs, the usual. This happened on a Sunday night around 11:30 p.m. I got a ping from a guy named Mark. No photo on the profile, but 5 stars. Pickup was a gas station downtown. When I pulled up, he was already standing outside. Neatly dressed, quiet, holding a takeout bag. He got in and smiled. "Thanks for coming, man," he said. "No problem," I replied. "Heading to Lincoln Avenue, right?" He nodded. "Yup, just a few minutes away." We drove in silence for the first couple blocks. Then he started talking. "Isn't it weird how empty the roads get at night? Like everyone just disappears." I laughed politely. "Yeah, it's peaceful." Then he said, "You like taking the back roads better, right?" "Less traffic. That's your usual route." I blinked. Yeah, I guess. How'd you know that?" He shrugged. "I don't know, just a guess. Except it wasn't. That is my preferred route, but not the one the app usually suggests." A few seconds passed. Then he asked, "So, is your dog still hiding under the couch when it thunders?" I gripped the steering wheel a little tighter. I never said I had a dog. He just smiled. "You mentioned it once, maybe in another ride." But I'd never driven this guy before, and I don't post about my dog online. We were about 2 minutes from the destination now. My gut was twisting. When we reached the address, he didn't move. I said, "All right, this is the spot." He looked out the window, nodded, then said, "Actually, can we just sit here for a second?" "No, sorry, I've got another ride in the queue." He didn't budge. Then he leaned forward, still smiling, and said, "You really should stop leaving your blinds open at night. That streetlight outside your window makes it too easy." Froze. "Get out," I said. He kept smiling. 100% totally understand. Then he slowly opened the door and stepped out. But before closing it, he leaned back in and whispered, "Tell Max I said hi." Max is my dog. I reported him to the app. They said there was no account under that name. The ride request never logged in my history. I checked my camera footage at home. Someone had been outside the window the night before, just standing there, and I still don't know who the hell he was. I don't care how cheap it is. I'll never stay in another Airbnb again. Back in March, I booked a 3-night stay at a guest house in Pennsylvania while visiting my cousin. It looked decent in the photos. Cozy, private, and cheap. Too cheap, probably. The host, Brian, messaged me right after booking. Super friendly. Let me know if you need anything, I'm nearby. I thought nothing of it. I arrived Friday night. Key was in a lockbox. The place was small but clean. Bed, little kitchenette, desk. No TV, but I had my laptop. The only weird thing? No mirrors, none. Not in the bathroom, not above the dresser. The next morning, I noticed something else. A smoke detector directly above the bed, with a faint red light blinking behind the plastic. I'm not a paranoid person, but something about that blink bugged me. I pulled a chair over, stood up, and looked closer. It wasn't a smoke detector, it was a tiny camera lens. I froze. I immediately went to check the rest of the room, and found 2 more. One in the ceiling vent and another disguised as a coat hook near the door. I snapped photos of each one, packed my stuff, and left. I messaged Brian and said I was checking out early due to a family emergency. He replied almost instantly, "Totally understand. Thanks for staying with us." I didn't mention the cameras. I wanted to wait until I got home to report it. When I did, Airbnb responded quickly. But here's the part that still keeps me up. They said that unit was never listed. According to their records, my booking had been rerouted to a different property. Same host name, same city, but not a verified address. Meaning I'd been staying somewhere completely off the books. I sent them the photos, the messages, even the address. They told me they were investigating. A few days later, I got a follow-up. The Brian account had been deactivated. But when I looked through the host reviews, something stood out. Multiple 5-star ratings, all from women. All with one line in common. Brian was so helpful. Loved how secure the place felt. Except now I'm sure they didn't know just how closely they were being watched. The cops are supposedly looking into it. But as far as I know, no one's been arrested. And I still don't know where those videos went, or who else has stayed there. I just know I was one of them, and someone out there saw everything.